Everyone. In today's video, we will discuss about the overview of topics and the recent incidents happened in India for the section that comes in GS Paper 3. The topics highlighted by UPSC includes disaster, its types, and various mitigation and disaster management, and also internal security that covers linkages between development and spread of extremism, role of external state and non-state actors in creating challenges to internal security. The challenges to internal security through communication networks, the role of media and social networking sites in internal security challenges, basics of cybersecurity, money laundering and its prevention, security challenges and their management in border areas and linkages to the organized crimes. We will also discuss about various security forces and agencies that mandates both internal and external defense mechanism in India. So talking about the categorization, terrorists have different goals and objectives. The nature of terrorism varies in accordance with the objective. And it is important for anyone who is preparing for civil service examinations or anyone who have been already in position should understand different categories of terrorism. And it's terrorism in the sense it's not just covering something from external but also internally. Different levels of extremism should also be understood by the civil service aspirants so that it will help them to proactively take the right decision. So taking any reactive decisions will not yield any good results. So this particular paper um, might give 50 marks for your UPSC exam, but for a nation to live in proper peace, you should understand the background of different incidents and different categories of such extremism groups, because in that way you can ensure that the peace um, is established within the nation. Considering terrorism based on objectives, the first one is ethno-nationalist terrorism, which is defined as intentional violence inflicted by a sub-national ethnic group in order to further its cause. They are either focused on the establishment of a separate state or on the elevation of one ethnic group over others. Religious terrorism, who are motivated wholly or partially by religious ideals who consider violence as their divine duty or a holy act. It gives them different ways of legitimation and justification when compared with other terrorist groups, and these unique factors make religious terrorism more dangerous and more brutal in committing heinous acts. Political terrorism involves using violence and fear to achieve political goals, often targeting civilians to pressure governments or other groups. It's a complex phenomenon with a long history, used by both state and non-state actors to achieve various political objectives. The ideological terrorism can be further classified as left or right. Left wing, in some sections of the country, the left wing extremism has been a cause of violence. Internally, these militants are launching assaults against the state. It is regarded as the most serious security concern. Their modus operandi is to cut off several tribal regions from the national grid because of these radical movements. On the other hand, right-wing terrorism either wants to maintain the status quo or return to a specific period in history that they believe should be preserved. These right-wing organizations can also take on ethnic, racist, religious overtones. Right-wing terrorists wanted to overthrow the regime and install a hyper-nationalist or fascist regime in its place. Since most of the categorization falls within the objective or motive, I will just run through the methods since we will be covering more about the recent attacks in the video. And this covers you how terrorism is categorized based on different methods. And terrorism based on target, so it's state sponsored, insurgent, terrorism against civilians, security forces or tourists. Emerging forms, hybrid terrorism is a term that describes a multifaceted approach to terrorism, combining different tactics, techniques and actors. It involves the convergence of various elements including state and non-state actors, conventional and unconventional methods, and even disruptive criminal activities, all aimed at achieving a specific goal. This approach is deliberate and designed to be difficult to detect and prevent, often exploiting vulnerabilities in infrastructure and security systems. The lone wolf terrorism refers to violent acts committed by individuals who plan and carry out attacks independently without direct support or command from a terrorist organization. These attackers may be inspired by ideology or group but operate alone in small or unorganized groups. So majority of the time the lone wolf will always be alone. The next one, online radicalization, which is a process where individuals embrace extremist ideas through internet-based interactions, which has become a significant concern in the construct of terrorism. Because this phenomenon is fueled by accessibility of the internet, the ease of disseminating the extremist propaganda, and the potential of online communities to reinforce radical views. It can lead to individuals being radicalized and potentially motivated to violence, including lone wolf attacks. The recent events, the underlying causes have to be confronted at level of ideologies and values. What are the values that will govern the future of our nation? Are they those of tolerance, freedom, respect for diversity, or those of reactive division and hatred? So as a civil servants, you should be very much concerned about this. This unconventional war against terrorism cannot be won by conventional means. It must be won by building stronger, more humane and more justice-based societies. Terrorism is not a class of civilization. It is a class of value systems. Today, we will explore how terrorism through events like Pahalgam Attack of 2025 test the resilience of internal security framework and democratic ideals. Internal security have different themes. So internal security threats, cross-border threats, border management, and the laws and forces policy response. Talking about the Pahalgam terrorist attack, so the major lessons for UPSC connecting current affairs to the GS3. So you must be aware of not just about the incident and what the government has done or the government has responded for that particular event. So as a civil servant, you should also be aware what are the past and aftermath that were related to this particular attack. And because you are a civil servant aspirant or a civil service officer, it is important for you to act based on the constitution and also based on the law. You are not someone who relies on WhatsApp messages or someone who forwarding from based on their different opinions. So you are someone who needs to take the right decision that exactly focuses on preventive measures and also to curb such events happening in the future, because that's how you can exactly make the nation stronger and more peaceful. So a proper decision is required, and that's why a proper analysis is important to take the right decision. So we will be discussing some of that in this. So the Pahalgam attack 2025, where it was executed by the TRF. So we will discuss more about the TRF. Today, we are decoding a shadowy but dangerous group TRF, the Resistance Front. TRF, or the Resistance Front, established in 2019, it's widely believed to be an offshoot of the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba, one of the most active terrorist organizations in South Asia. So, why create a new name when Lashkar-e-Taiba already exists because TRF was created to appear more indigenous, to give the illusion that the resistance in Jammu and Kashmir is local and not foreign sponsored. It is a branding tactic, distance from Pakistan, but same handlers behind the scenes. The modus operandi of TRF includes using social media to spread propaganda and recruit locals, launching targeted attacks both on civilians and also on the security forces. TRF act operate like a hybrid threat, physical attacks backed by online influence, and recently they shifted focus, isn't it? Yes, in the Pahalgam attack, the TRF targeted tourists because it's a soft target. This marked a significant shift in their operational strategy, moving from symbolic or military targets to those meant to spread fear widely. TRF claims it's fighting alleged demographic changes in Kashmir, suggesting that India is trying to alter the region's identity. Of course, this is a propaganda designed to radicalize and recruit more supporters locally. And that is why understanding groups like TRF is essential for national security and anyone preparing for civil services exam. And don't just stop with the examinations, and even for the officers it is important to understand all this background. So here the TRF have involved in the hybrid warfare. We are witnessing a new form of conflict, that's the hybrid warfare. It's not just about guns and bombs anymore. It combines conventional armed attacks with cyber propaganda, which is designed to influence public perception and recruit members through fear and misinformation. So, dissemination of information or propaganda materials through social media has become an easiest tool for such terrorist organizations. Considering the recruitment scenario, recruitment today happens not in camps but on screens. Radicalization is driven by online platforms targeting local youth. These platforms exploit socio-political grievances to draw young minds toward extremism. So the propaganda, recruitment, and after that they require funding. So to operate they need fund. And how is all this funded? Investigation reveals link to narcotics trafficking and cross-border smuggling. Drugs and illegal trade are being used to finance terror operations quietly and very dangerously. The next one, the legal and security implications on this particular terrorist attack. You can see that from the screen. So it has different designations, like we have the UPA Act by the Indian government, and the security measures. You can know that we can increase the surveillance network across the border and also more sensitive areas in localities like Jammu and Kashmir. And international relations, like the group activities have further strained India-Pakistan relations. The Pahalgam terror attack, what we have to know, the first thing is we have the issue of border infiltration across the line of control. Despite fencing and patrols, militants managed to cross over, highlighting the vulnerabilities in our surveillance systems and terrain management. Of course, it's a very tough terrain. Secondly, there was a clear intelligence failure, I would say, because either the threat was not detected at all or the intelligence did not reach the ground forces in time to act. The third one, the terrorists were armed with sophisticated weapons, including M4 carbines and AK-47s. This shows both access to a high-grade arms and the failure to intercept smuggling channels. Finally, the attack happened in a tourist zone, which is a soft target. Why? Because it guarantees media coverage, creates panic and damages the economy. This reflects poor area risk profiling and a gap in civilian protection strategy. If you see, these four factors together explain how attackers succeeded in the Pahalgam attack. Our national security strategy must address each of them proactively and not reactively. That's very important. The Pahalgam attack also highlights deep-rooted challenges in border management area. First, the mountainous geography makes infiltration easier and surveillance harder. Terror groups often exploit these natural blind spots to cross the LOC, the line of control, undetected. The second one, there is a clear need for better UAVs and drone surveillance. The real-time aerial monitoring can help detect movement across ridgelines, forests, and unguarded patches. So, of course, and fill the gaps where traditional patrolling falls short. And third, we must strengthen human intelligence on ground. Of course, technology is powerful, but there is no substitute for trusted local sources. Building strong community links and actionable intelligence is key to preempting threats. And so what we have discussed so far, and these are some of the essays that you can expect that has UPSC relevance. So this will be covered in GS Paper 3 and also for CAPF UPSC essay exams as well. So you can discuss or prepare yourself for some of these topics that you see on the screen. So I will also put these topics on the description also, so you can just copy and understand or prepare yourself for the UPSC mains exam. The UPSC relevance, when you have such topics, you should have an approach to introduce the concept of hybrid terrorist organization, detailed TRF's formation, objectives and operational tactics. You should also analyze the challenges they pose to internal security, propose comprehensive counter-terrorism strategies including intelligence gathering, cyber surveillance and international cooperation. So that's how you should actually approach an essay and of course an issue itself. Yep, the event connections. No terror attack happened in isolation. The Pahalgam attack of 2025 is part of a broader chain of events, both before and after, that reveal the evolving nature of terrorism or extremist challenges within India. There were escalations in infiltration activities along the line of control. Intelligence units had noticed a rise in chatter on social media channels operated by proxy groups like TRF. Additionally, the narcotics trafficking route exposed in the Mundra port heroin seizure, which had already revealed funding links to Lashkar-e-Taiba, the parent network behind TRF. Then came the attack, a direct strike on tourist, a tourist area. It was not just about casualties. It was a calculated attempt to damage public confidence, national morale, and economic activity. Some of the frameable questions that you can expect from the what happened or what are the linkages between the what are the linkages uh, uh, that were analyzed before the attack has happened, that has links with various incident before the Pahalgam attack has happened. And in the aftermath, tensions rose across the country. In Uttarakhand, Kashmiri students were threatened and forced to flee campuses, showing how easily fear can spill into communal polarization. So this again falls into a right extremism. Political leaders called for restraint, while security agencies scrambled to track local radicalization links, highlighting a response gap we must still address. and some of the legal and institutional response based on the aftermath of the incidents, so which rippled across the nation. Because when such events happen, we all know that before analyzing or before understanding the exact essence or the exact background for these kind of attacks, just based on the media reports and WhatsApp forward, people have becoming more emotional. So this shows that as a society how fragile India has become, because such reactive is not going to form a stronger society, rather than creating more challenges for civil servants. Because this emotional instability, I would say, instability or a fragile society, this going to get forced or influenced by right-wing extremism. So in that way, this is becoming a rising challenge in India. So as a civil servants, you must be prepared to handle this, and especially in curbing any fake or any dubious media reports. That's very essential to understand any events that happened within the nation. So a proper analysis and a proper understanding of background is very important to bring the justice, and that's the way you can respect the Constitution of India, rather than just relying on the media reports and the WhatsApp forwards. So when we study event like Pahalgam, we must look beyond the incident. We must trace the networks that preceded it and the social tremors it left behind. So considering the relevance to UPSC, you can see that some of the topics you can discuss for GS3 or GS Paper 2. And please remember, as a civil servant and also someone who is preparing for civil services examinations, so this particular paper GS3 will easily fetch you 50 marks. As a civil servant and also someone who is preparing for civil services examinations, you should understand that why it's important to understand the background of not just such terrorist activities, but also uh, the motive behind such organizations, and any beforehand incidents or chain of events that linked to particular event. And you should also be careful of aftermath of such incidents, because as I said, just because of the media reports and the WhatsApp forwards, um, it's becoming more fragile. The society has become more fragile and more emotionally attached to a particular religion. So any such religious extremism is the result of right-wing extremism, and such influences is also going to cause equal mayhem that what the terrorist activities have caused. So, as a civil servant, it's your duty to arrest such ripples across the nation. So, take your decision based on the right justifications, based on the right investigations, and based on the right understanding of background of such incidents. So, we will be discussing more on the GS3 topics in the coming videos. Wishing you all success. Jai Hind. Take care. Thank you.